In this video, we're going to learn about creating a Google form with appropriate question types. On your homepage, when you open a new Google tab, there's a really quick way to create a new form, which is simply by typing forms.new, and when you do so, a new Google form will be created. It will be located in your Google Drive, just in the overall main folder of your Google Drive, so you would then need to use this little Move to Folder button to place it in a specific folder. The alternative ways that you could create a Google form are to first of all navigate to your Google Drive by either going to the waffle and selecting it or using a shortcut if you have one. And when you're in your Google Drive, you'll find that if you click on New at the top left, then select Google Forms, you can either just create a form by clicking Google Forms, or if you click the wee arrow, you'll see that there are some options to create a blank form from a template, or as a quiz, or as a form. In other videos, we'll discuss the difference between a form and a quiz. And finally, if you use the waffle icon, you can actually go directly down to Google Forms itself. And when you click on it here, it will take you to your Forms homepage, which provides you with a range of different templates that you can open up that may be of use to you. So now that we've covered how to create a form, when you've created your form, the first thing to do is, of course, to name it. So we'll just call this one form. When you've titled more or less any Google Doc, if you then click on the file name up at the top, it will transfer whatever is at the top of your page over to there as the file name. Now, in terms of creating appropriate question types, in your Google form, you will be given a starter question here usually, and then at the right-hand side, you'll see that there's an option to add question. When you add a question, that will add a question below the question that you've already created or above it, depending on where you are currently selected. And then within any question, if you click on the question itself, you'll see that you have a drop down here that allows you to select different options. Most of these are quite self-explanatory. A short answer is most well suited to short responses, which would be a single or a couple of words, maybe a sentence at most. Anything beyond that, you would want to use a paragraph response, and that provides a larger text box and expects that the respondent would be writing a longer piece of text, and provides you with some controls we can look at a later point to manage how much people can write, and validates responses by whether that text is within a certain word count range and so on. Beyond that, the other most common ones are multiple choice, which allows you to select multiple choice options. So you can, for example, put in yes or no to your question. And you will see that you can also add an other option there as well, and that will allow respondents the opportunity to enter an alternative choice. In addition to multiple choice, you have checkboxes. The key difference is that with checkboxes, people who are responding can select more than one option as a response, as opposed to multiple choice, which limits them to a single response. Drop-down menus can be really useful if you have a set of predefined options, like for example, if it's a pupil response form and you wanted to select by certain classes, you can provide a drop-down with a list of all the classes. There's an option also for people to be able to upload a file, for example, an image or a video that you want them to submit as part of the file, as the form. Then we also have linear scales, which are fairly self-explanatory. We specify the minimum, maximum range, and then the labels that accompany them. Multiple choice grids and tick box grids, which basically provide a multiple choice, but say, for example, it was a survey and the answers were yes, no, don't know. You could, for example, have in your rows all your questions, so question 1, question 2, and so on and so forth. And then your columns would simply be yes, no, and then don't know. And rather than having lots of individual multiple choice questions, it will lay them out in a single big grid so that you're not repeatedly having the same determining responses. Beyond that, we have a tick box grid, which works in much the same way as a multiple choice grid. And finally, we have date and time options. So we can allow respondents to specify a given date. That could be useful for creating appointment slots or information about when things were completed. And times, likewise, we can specify a response time. So those are the key options for our different question types in Google Forms.